Hey, let's take a look at your MT3 LT6 affirmation. If we take a look at the first question here, I don't know what you did to get this negative x. That confuses me. If we have a quadratic equation, in order to use the quadratic formula, or to factor it, or to graph it, it has to equal to 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this negative 2, we're going to push it to the other side. So your new equation then is 5x squared plus 9x plus 2 equals 0, because you have to make it equal to 0. Now you can use your quadratic formula. We know a is 5, b is 9, and c equals 2. So we know x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. In this case, you were correct when you said the opposite of 9, plus or minus 9 squared, which is 81, was what you wrote. But here's where you made the mistake. A is 5, you had that part right, but c is not 0, c is 2. All over 2 times a, or 2 times 5, which is 10, which is the part you had right. So now, x equals negative 9 plus or minus 81, not minus 0, but 4 times 5 is 20, 20 times 2 is 40, all over 10. And let's keep on simplifying that now. I'm going to write it over here to the side. So we get x equals negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 41. And we're going to divide our answer by 10. So at this point, we're going to use our calculator. We're going to take negative 9 plus the square root of 41. Let me get a calculator out here. Find, do I have one open? I don't want to use that powerful desk. I just want to use a scientific one. Okay, so we're going to go negative 9 plus the square root of 41. And then we're going to take that answer, and we're going to divide it by 10. And you get negative 0.26. And then I'll take negative 9 minus the square root of 41. And then notice I get negative 1.54. And that's what we're looking for that question. Make sure when you redo your affirmation, sometimes they ask for a decimal. Sometimes they just want the exact answer. If it's the exact answer, you're going to type in what we have on the left. The x equals negative 9 plus the square root of 41 over 10, and negative 9 minus the square root of 41 over 10. On this problem, you set it up right. You got the right equation, but you didn't put in h. We want to know the height when the rocket, or we want to find the time when the height is 34. So it should be 34 equals 105t minus 16t squared. So we're going to move that 34 to the other side again to make it equal to 0. So we get negative 16t squared plus 105t minus 34 equals 0. So now on this problem, A is negative 16, B is positive 105. You see what happens there? You got them mixed up. And C is negative 34. Because the coefficient of your squared term is A, the coefficient of your constant term is B, or the coefficient of your linear term is B. The coefficient of your constant term is C. So we got our numbers kind of mixed up there in our quadratic formula. So now we say t instead of x, but it's still the same thing. T equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So in this one, it'll be negative 105 plus or minus the square root of 105 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times negative 34 all over 2 times negative 16. So now let's just simplify that. So you get negative 105 plus or minus, well, 105 squared. I can't do that in my head. I don't expect you to. So we go 105 squared, and we get 11,025. We're going to multiply three negatives, a negative times a negative times a negative. Well, that's a negative. So minus 4 times 16 times 34. Well, 4 times 16 is 64. So then we're going to take 64 times 34. That'll be 2176. We're going to divide that by negative 32. So then I get negative 105 plus or minus. We're going to take the square root of 11,025 minus 2176. We get 8849. All divided by negative 36. At this point, let's use our calculator. So a negative 105 plus the square root of 8849. And I will divide that by negative 30, let me see. Yeah, negative 36. So one of our answers is at 0.30 seconds. The other answer, let's do the subtraction. And we get 5.53 seconds. And there's your answer there. So, because what happens is it goes up, it hits 34 feet, 0.3 seconds on its way up. It reaches the top and starts falling. After 5.53 seconds, it hits 34 feet on the way down. So that's why you got two answers here. Let's take a look at this question. Rate of change. Rate of change is just your slope. And you only did half the problem. You can't just divide the x's. You got to look at the ordered pair. What is the value on the graph when x is negative 4? I'll highlight that here. So what happens here, we're at negative 4 and 8 here, aren't we? So here's negative 4 and 8. And then at positive 2, we're down here at 2 and negative 4. From your seminar, the rate of change follows our formula. It's very similar to slope. It's f of x sub 2 minus f of x sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Well, remember, f of x, that's just another way of saying y. So you can think of it as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It's very similar to slope, except slope is of a line, and here we have a parabola. So in other words, I'm going to take my value of my second point, which I'm going to say is negative 4. So we're going to say, oh, that's negative 4 minus the value of f when you're at negative, so it'll be 8. So negative 4 minus 8 all over 2 minus a negative 4. Well, negative 4 minus 8, that's negative 12. 2 minus a negative 4, that's the same thing as 2 plus 4, which is 6, which is negative 2. So the rate of change between these 2 points is negative 2. The 2 points are falling on here, so that does kind of make sense. And that's what you have to do for rate of change problems. Now let's give the affirmation another redo, and make sure you follow directions.